Hi everyone, Marla Miller from marlamiller.com presenting my 140th quick query critique, I think. Um, I have gotten several email requests about when the free quick query letters will be critiqued, and here's what I can tell you. I'm doing 2 a month because actually my newsletter is going out twice a month as opposed to once every week, just because I'm so busy. And that's the good news. I'm really busy. So I have to put my energy into the work that's paying me. For those of you who need the query letter sooner, I only charge $20, and I can certainly be motivated to get those done a lot quicker. So just let me know. And for those waiting, I think my list is, I don't know, a dozen, probably more. You know, I'm doing them as best as I can. Okay, here we go. This one, interestingly enough, is another suicide query letter. So tell me what you think. Dear Blank, what happens when a habitually suicidal man attempts to take his own life by carbon monoxide poisoning and incurs damage to the area of his brain responsible for feeling pleasure? This is a question posed by my memoir entitled Ideation. The answer is complicated and very spiritual one. I have lived my life in two separate realities, the first being the world of selfish, sometimes spoiled, self-centered young man who becomes obsessed with his personal appearance. The obsession becomes so overwhelming that I attempt to kill myself twice before the age of 18 by overdosing on my dad's high blood pressure medication. The stories leading up to these first two attempts and in-depth studies of the mind, the first, I'm sorry, the stories leading up to these first two attempts are in-depth studies of a mind in turmoil. My third suicide attempt is the poisoning, and after emerging from a coma after 4 days, it completely turns my universe inside out, back to front, upside down, all the way around. I learned to walk, talk, eat, bathe, etc. all over again. It is by the grace of God that I complete college at the age of 23, graduating with a GPA of 3.42. After 4 long years of searching, I finally find gainful employment. Then I find the love of my life in a very strong, confident woman of another race. We marry and she gives birth to a healthy daughter. However, along the way, I lose my job and my wife becomes the sole breadwinner. This leaves me as primary caretaker for the infant girl. Subsequent questions of my ability to care for her lead to 2 more overdoses, the last one resulting in another coma and near brain death. I'm 42 years old and happy to say I have been suicide-free for 8 years. I have never been published before, but am very confident in my work. I know that mine is a story that needs to be told. The underlying theme to my life story is that suicide is a fallen, stubborn spirit, and once you open the door to it, it will keep coming back to see if it is still ajar. The completed work is 47,000 words. I'm positive that there isn't anything else like it in today's literature. Okay, so what do I think of ideation? Well, let's see. Here's what I know. I know that this story is about this writer's suicidal ideation, and that's the clinical term um, for people who are preoccupied with suicide as an option to life or an option to, um, tough times. Okay. And so I'm sure that that's where ideation comes from. That said, I don't think that the general public really knows that. So ideation as a title, I would encourage him to look at this. Sometimes, when you're in a world, you think everybody knows the verbiage that you know, and not everyone does. So take a look at ideation, number one. Number two, this writer has had several suicide attempts. Um, and he mentions them, and he says that each attempt leave him with some residue. Right? In the first one, he loses his pleasure feeling, and then he also in the third one, when he comes out of a coma, he turns my universe inside out, back to front, upside down, all the way around. Now that's a catchy sentence, but what does it mean? I don't know what it means. Um, so then he talks about perhaps he meant that he had to learn to walk and talk, etc. Then he talks about another suicide attempt when he has a daughter who he's caring for. And the part of this query letter, frankly, that hooked me the most is this sentence. Uh, let's see. It's the ending. The underlying theme to my life story is that suicide is a foul and stubborn spirit, and once you open the door for it, it will keep coming back to see if it is still ajar. I think that's hookable. And it would seem to me that that's actually what this story is about. It's just that the way that it's presented in this query letter, uh, you know, I don't, I don't see the narrative through line as well as I think this writer could probably write it. So if in fact this is about this man's many suicide attempts, um, then perhaps this story is about how once you put that in your options basket, it's hard to kick it out. And so if that's the story, and if that's his struggle through his second, third, fourth, I'm not sure how many attempts he's had, but I think he's had quite a few. If that's the story, that once suicide grabs you, it has a hard time letting go, I would hang every single one of these suicide experiences on that clothesline. Because I think that's what it is. That's the clothesline for this story. Once it grabs you, it keeps coming back to see if the door is still ajar. That's pretty compelling. Um, so I would really open with a version of that, and then I would give a chronology, as he's done, of the many suicide attempts that he has made. And then now in his last paragraph, perhaps saying that he's 8 years free, so maybe that's time to write the book and share what he's learned. So if that's the case, if that's what ideation is about, I would, number one, revise that title, and number two, I would use that sentence about suicide, once it gets in, it's hard to get it out. I would use that, and I would hang all of the suicide attempts along that, because I think that would make a pretty compelling read. This is a, you know, if he does it, then this really does have a memoir feel to it, as opposed to memoir and then offering statistics, et cetera, et cetera. We don't read memoirs for statistics. We read them for an intimate story. And if this author, you know, takes some time to rearrange this query letter and opens it with, once that door is open, I think that that could be a query letter that would get an agent's attention. I hope that this is helpful. Until the next time, be well, keep writing, and happy 4th.